Talking with the experts.
There's a reason why I named my company Stellar Insight. I like stars, obviously, from the pictures and back. But in order to grow, you have to have insight. In order to be a visionary, think about the industry leaders who the world knows as visionaries. Stephen Jobs was visionary. Maybe not always a nice person, but he was a visionary, right? He knew stuff before people knew it. That's intuition. But in order to have intuition, you've got to listen carefully. There it is again, right? Internally, because intuition is actually a whole vast set of skills that you can grow, and it is growable. I know because over the last 30 years, I've done things to grow mine.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosesdavidson.com. And Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I would love it if you could go over to my YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell so that you know when my next video is uploaded. Now, today, my guest is Brad Smith from Stellar Insight Incorporated. And we're going to be talking about visionary leadership and business growth. And Brad is the founder and CEO of Stellar Insight Incorporated, a business growth consulting and coaching company. He has been a chemist, a production plant and equipment designer, a business manager, a business consultant, and an executive coach for CEOs and business owners, among many other things. He pursues insight and understanding into the convergence of business success, organizational excellence, and the practical actions it takes to consistently achieve significant business growth. Well done.
It's an adventure,
welcome, Brad.
and I love it.
And thank you so much for joining me today. Now, tell me, everything is theory until you experience it and can consciously repeat the experiment. Can you please explain that?
Oh, it's like this. If I think that something is going to work in my business and I put it into practice, I put it into action and it doesn't give me back the results, my theory doesn't work, right? But if I ask the people in my company, what will work, and they give me their feedback, and then we build it and adjust what I had thought was correct slightly to what they wanted. But I also get, unknown to me and unknown to them, I also get their enthusiasm. That shifts the whole thing. So it's like all the different conditions that are involved in a company growth are involved in literally everything. And one of the things that I watch for carefully is when I talk with someone, whether it's on a phone or video or in person. That hasn't happened for a while, but I watch their character. Who are they? What comes out of them automatically? It's completely automatic. And how that then I listen to how that affects their perspective on their business. That's a theory, right?
Yeah.
But for me, because I've got literally 25 years of watching people do that in their businesses and see the correlations, it's no longer a theory for me.
Okay, makes theoretical sense.
It's a perspective.
Yes, it does. It does. It does. Now, I guess explain to me why you've been through such a career change throughout your life. What prompted all this change and then to doing what you're doing now?
Well, as I was growing up, my dad had a bachelor's in chemical engineering and a PhD in biochemistry, and he was a product development guy. But he was also an entrepreneur. I watched him be involved in or start 34 different companies. So we had right? But kill 30 of them. It was like 30 of them just, went away. So I watched that process, and every one of those stories came through the house. And the reason they died came through the house, and the reason they were successful came through the house. And so when I went back, I got within 2 terms of a degree in biochemistry, and then went back and finished my bachelor's in business management and then an MBA, right, in marketing and finance. And what I realized was that I had the skills necessary to look technically at a business and listen carefully to them and help them do, rewire themselves, if you would. And so I love doing that, partly as a give back to my dad for all the education that I got growing up, but also because I really, really loved seeing people be successful. It's like you, and the reason you do your podcast is because if you can help somebody change who they are, character, change the character of their business, the culture, and then also change the processes in the business, and it significantly starts to grow. And then, everybody has some sort of growth, whether it's up or down, right, in a business. And if you can take that, let's say they've got a 40% growth rate year over year, and I can go in and listen to them carefully and help them readjust their thinking and the processes, and they can grow at 100% a year, year after year after year, I've done something significant to help them do something significant. And I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
They're better financially, and they're better. Everyone in their business is better.
Yeah, I love to see people grow. It's great and be successful. You're right. That's why I started the podcast, is just to help people initially when COVID sort of, took a turn last July. And I thought, business owners could really do with a helping hand to listen from other business owners, how they're surviving and how they could progress and all that. And it's just sort of blossomed from there. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to meet so many wonderful people like you.
Yeah. Good.
So I guess you've worked with a lot of different types of industries. And do you use like the same formula theory for each of them, or do you tailor it to each industry?
Well, I could take it 2 different directions. I use the same set of skills to help them grow, right? But it's different for each one. Every human being has their own perspectives, and I listen and work with who they are and where they want to go. So the goals are different, most of the time. I mean, you could simplify it down to, I want more money in my company, right? I want more money for me. I want to retire better. All of those things are the same. However, the processes involved, like there's a few people that are really good at sales. There's a few people as the founders and the entrepreneurs who are terrible at sales. They need to hire that, right? Yeah. So there are people that are really good at hiring, really good at it, right? But most people are really horrible at it. Okay. There are some people that are really good at time management, but as you grow a company, you as a person and the founder have to go through evolutions in how you deal with your time and your headspace and what you look at. So let's say you've got a company that's worth $2 to $3 million a year, right? To go from there to 6 million is a significant change, right? To do that year after year, you've got to be able to go through radical, significant, very conscious change year after year after year. You get to, 12 million and you want to go to 24 million. That's another really, really big change. So you go from 40 million to 100 million. That's another really, really big change. You can't go through growth without internal and external change. And I mean that both as an individual and an organization. And you have to be, I think the key skills in growing a company, other than ambition, is awareness, self-awareness, other people awareness, organizational awareness, right?
Yeah.
What's actually there and what's actually going on. And then the second one behind that is listening. If you listen really carefully, everyone that's, all the frontline workers have better ideas than you do, or at least they help you adjust things. So, I've worked in organizations, huge organizations, and literally one-person organizations, both myself and with them. So
yeah, it's a big thing for the CEO or whoever to be able to listen to the frontline workers, because they're the ones at the coalface. They're the ones that are dealing with the day-to-day issues of, the machinery doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? Why is production slow? Because machines not working. Well, how can we get to fix this? And, you can't go down there and point fingers. You have to find out and speak to them. And a lot of people don't do that, which is really unfortunate. I think they have forgotten that they probably once started at the front line, and a lot of them have worked their way up through the company. Some of them started on the front line and started their own business, but they've forgotten what it's like to be the frontline worker.
Well, if they never had that opportunity, they need to go back. They have done other things, part covers, in my case, janitor, right? I know what it's like to clean toilets, right? And to pay attention to that level of, do I walk into a bathroom, does it smell? There's a cue, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yep. Does it smell? It needs cleaning.
Right.
So I guess, how do you use this visionary leadership to help businesses grow? What steps are there to along that journey?
Well, so there's a reason why I named my company Stellar Insight. I like stars, obviously, from the pictures and back. But in order to grow, you have to have insight. In order to be a visionary, think about the industry leaders who the world knows as visionaries. Stephen Jobs was visionary. Maybe not always a nice person, but he was a visionary, right? He knew stuff before people knew it. That's intuition. But in order to have intuition, you've got to listen carefully. There it is again, right? Internally, because intuition is actually a whole vast set of skills that you can grow, and it is growable. I know, because over the last 30 years, I've done things to grow mine. That includes meditation. It includes, breathing exercises. It includes different things. So when I work with somebody, I teach them how and where to use their listening internally so that they capture the ideas. Let's take an interview. I'm interviewing somebody for an important job, right? My vice president of operations or whatever, right? And in the process, there's a feeling that rolls over, or a thought that rolls over in the back of my mind going, there's something off here. If you step over that, you'll wind up having to fire that person. And if you don't step over that little voice and write it down and bring it back into the questioning process, then you will be successful. But you have to listen to those.
I agree.
There's a significant difference between willed imagination and intuitive impulses. And when you spend enough time, and I describe meditation as the practice of removing your will and watching. That's all. Just sit back. First you do your body, then you do your emotions, then you do your analytical mind, which is where your voice chatters on, right? And then you do the conceptual level, which is the intuitive mind. And so when you can back yourself up and just listen carefully, then you've got the skill on an ongoing basis to know the difference between what's my imagination, what's a willed thought, and what is an intuitive hunch that shows up.
Yeah, I get that. If my theory is, if it doesn't feel right to me, then it's not right. So, my intuition, if there's a little gap, as you said, in a story that somebody's telling me, or the way they're behaving, or there's something about them that I just don't gel with, then it's obviously my intuition's kicked in, because most times I've found out that these people aren't who they say they are. So
well, we always in an interview want to put our best foot forward. The process is, if you are authentic, right? There you go. How many of us, let's put it this way, I'm going to ask everybody here, when was the last time you told what we call a white lie here, right? When was the last time you did that, right? Or when was the last time you stopped yourself from doing that and actually told the truth? Or were silent, because if you're silent, you're not speaking something, right? So if I know something about somebody and they're not ready to hear it, I am just quiet until I can grow them to the place where they're ready to hear it, right? I want to tell them, but I want to do it when they can receive it. So telling the truth is important, even to ourselves, right? So we have all these little habits that we step over. It's like, in order to run a company effectively, you have to have a very enthusiastic group, right? In order to run a group of people and inspire them. So there's a difference in my mind between management and leadership. Management is the structures that are in place, but it's directive, right? Leadership is inspiring. In other words, I take who you are, I understand your motivations, and then I guide you to things and insights that inspire you more than where you were. So you wind up with more energy for the project or for your life or whatever, for the company. So if you're inspired, I'm leading you.
Yeah, and leaders don't necessarily have to manage. They just have to lead, or let others lead. They have to know when to step back and let others step in front of them, which is sometimes not good for their ego, the CEO's ego. And a lot of it is just ego. So, yes, well, I understand perfectly what you're saying.
So if people will pay attention, underneath ego will be insecurities. That's the little voice from childhood that says, I'm not good enough. But if they are patient with that voice and they prove to themselves that they're actually effective and worthwhile, right? That's the biggest challenge almost every human has. Am I worthwhile?
Okay, so I guess the next question would be is if they're not, how do you prepare them to take these steps to, get to their intuition and be able to hear the truth about themselves, or be able to tell themselves the truth about themselves?
Well, I use the business as a projection screen for who they are, because it happens all the time anyway. But if we're using the business as a projection screen, I help them go through and think of, my job is to ask questions, right? And also be the hired pain in the neck. It's like I'm consistently there and present with them if they're willing, right? And if they're willing, then we go through the steps. It's like, let's look at every part of the organization, because when I listen to someone, by the time I've talked to them for an hour, even the first time, I know who they are and how they affect their business. I know how their business is running, and they know, where is it run right? Where is it not run right, right? Who's in the right place? Who's not in the right place? And what processes are efficient and effective. So we literally look at the whole business, from business model clear through to the end customer, and how thrilled are their end customers with who they are.
Okay, good steps. I like them. It's good. Okay, Brad, have you written any books on this theory?
Oh, this is hilarious. I literally interviewed somebody yesterday to help me walk through the process of writing the first book. So, playing.
There you go.
Yeah, well, literally yesterday, which cracks me up. But it's like, I've been looking for him for a while, and it's going to work really well. So
good.
Probably a year from now, I will have a published book. My title, working title in my head is, for individuals, right? Ambition. I don't know what the rest of the title is going to be, but we got that, right?
Yeah, like a good title for a book.
Right. Well, in the second book, which I've already got in mind, I'm going to call acceleration, which is obviously going to be about businesses. If you don't do the individual stuff, you can't do the organizational stuff.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. I don't know. But I hope it makes sense to everybody else, because it makes sense to me, so it has to make sense to everybody else. I've just said it, so it has to be right. So do you have a podcast, Brad?
No, I've just started to do interviews like this to kind of get myself up and running and kind of comfortable with the idea of, even though I'm an extrovert, there's still a shy kid inside. So it's like I'm working through the shy part of myself so that I can be in front of people and say, this is what I know. What do you know? And what's important?
Well, you'll do very well, I'm sure. You've got a face. You've got the face. You've got the voice. You've got the temperament. So it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, we don't. It's an experiment. We'll see.
Yeah. We won't. You won't know unless you don't try. So that's the point.
Right. If you don't jump in, you don't know how deep the water is.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Now, we've gone through the book. We've gone through the podcast. Where can people find you?
My website is on the internet, stellarinsightinc.com. And there's a way, if they're really interested, to go look at I've got a YouTube channel. They can go look at videos there. We're posting them also on the website. And if they're interested and are ambitious enough, and they have to be ambitious, right? And they're curious, they don't have all the answers, they can set up an appointment with me. That would work just fine.
Well, I'm going to go and stalk you on LinkedIn now after we finish here.
Yeah.
So make sure you stay awake long enough till I get there.
Okay.
Don't go rushing off to do the house chores yet.
Yeah.
All right, Brett, any last words of wisdom for our viewers and listeners today?
I want people to understand that they're more brilliant than they actually think they are. Now, some people think they're brilliant, but they have to actually do something effective to be brilliant. But if you work through the things that are blocking you, right, your brilliance will show up. Ego is not brilliance. Blaming someone else for the issues is a toddler skill rather than an adult skill. Adults take full responsibility for their lives, but in the process, they also are able to create more success for themselves and the people around them. So be aware, be responsible, and stop blaming people.
And
Step
listen.
up and take it. Yeah, and listen.
Listening skills are very important. Doesn't matter where you are on the ladder of life. You've got to listen.
And growing a business is a little bit like the last push-up you do every morning, right? It's the hardest one. Growing a business is not comfortable, but if you're willing to be uncomfortable, you will have more income. And key in that all is, what's the meaning you're creating with your business?
There's got to be a purpose behind everything, I reckon.
Well, everyone has purpose with everything. They just need to ask. What's my purpose with feeling that way? What's my purpose with doing that? What's the purpose with this relationship, or what's the purpose with this business?
That's it. I think I'm in love with you.
Thank you.
All right, Brad, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and your insight today. It's been absolutely fascinating. And I really like the way that, that you want people to use their intuition, because I think it's something that is lacking in a lot of businesses. They don't use that intuition. They just don't, use their gut. They just use their head. And sometimes it's where they fail. They don't listen to themselves.
Well, intuition is not the analytical skills. It's not the words and numbers. Intuition is concepts. It's the conceptual mind. And there's a distinct difference. Listen carefully.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a lovely day.
I will.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.